आप कंफर्म कर देना कि स्क्रीन मतलब प्रेजेंट हो रहा है कि नहीं, ठीक है। हाँ लाइक दिख रहा है क्या, थोड़ा बता दो।
हाँ दिख रहा है, दिख रहा है।
ओके ओके ठीक है। हाँ हाँ।
हेलो। आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ आ रही है।
तो स्टार्ट करने के लिए अगर नेहा स्लाइडो में पहला क्वेश्चन एक्टिव कर दो। हेलो एवरीवन। um, तो वेलकम एवरीवन। बट हम इससे पहले कि हम लोग स्टार्ट करें आज का जो वर्कशॉप है इस सबको शायद अगर कोई आया होगा जीडीएससी के इंट्रोडक्शन वाले इवेंट में तो वहाँ पे हमने एक चीज़ का इस्तेमाल किया था स्लाइडो। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि आप सब स्लाइडो में फिर से ज्वाइन करें slido.com। मैं भी आपको जो क्यूआर कोड है और इवेंट का जो कोड है वो शेयर कर रहा हूँ।
Ani,
यस।
there's some noise on your background.
हाँ ओके। अभी ठीक है?
Yeah, better.
ओके। होपफुली मेरा स्क्रीन दिख रहा होगा स्लाइडो का कोड और क्यूआर कोड। कोई कंफर्म करना? हेलो।
हाँ निरुद्ध, मतलब स्क्रीन दिख रहा है बट कोड नहीं दिख रहा।
अभी?
नहीं, अभी भी नहीं।
ओके एक सेकंड।
लाइक आई गेस तुमको मतलब स्लाइड्स प्रेजेंट करने पड़ेंगे तो वहाँ दिखेगा।
ओके होपफुली अब हो जाना चाहिए।
हाँ अब दिख रहा है।
ओके तो स्लाइडो का कोड नीचे 691436 can go to slido.com and put that code right there. You can scan the QR code to directly link to it. If you have any difficulty, you can write it down in the chat box. Yes. Okay. There's a chat right here. You can put your queries there if you're having any troubles. I'll put the Slido back in. Okay, photography, music. There are two people there. Anyone else? Right, dance. Okay. I kind of enjoy things like this because when you're in web development, specifically in front end, it's the everything you do is technically related to stuff like this, like photography and drawing and music and dance. The code behind is just simply code, but what you show to people is stuff like this, like dance, playing chess. Coding is related to CS, but movies, memes, okay, photography, music. All right, but people are starting to join in slide. All right. Gaming, okay, art. All right. Something about gaming is interesting because gaming also involves things like music and art, which I think people really neglect when they talk about gaming. Um, okay, lots of things going on. Right. Well, okay, let's begin with our session for today, which Blitz and I'm really excited because it's something I'm really passionate about, web development. And all right, let's get started. Right, why web? All right, why web? Um, Technically, this question shouldn't even exist because I can guarantee and say with confidence that you are using internet every single day of your life, right? Specifically in this last 2 years, right? You have used your internet practically every single day. And the second thing is it works everywhere, right? You stuff like Android or iOS, like Android development is specific to Android phones. Swift language is specific to iOS. If you're building a Windows desktop app, it's only going to run on Windows. But if you make a web page, it's going to run on every single one of those platforms, right? So it's quite handy if you're going to make a web page. It's going to work everywhere, and you can be sure about it. um, why does it work everywhere, right? Why does it work everywhere? Because every platform has a browser, and a browser itself can be specific to that operating system or platform. Like a Chrome system built in Windows is not going to run in Mac, or it's not going to run in an Android phone. But every single browser does the same thing in cell, that is displaying your website. So your website is going to look the same for your PC or your phone, and it's going to work everywhere just because there is this intermediate thing called a browser. And I want you to remember that, all right? If someone has a browser and someone has a code that you wrote for your website, they can see, they can run your website basically. If they have a browser and they have a code that you wrote, they can see or use the website you built. And I want you to remember that, although it sounds real simple, I'm going to talk about it in the future, and I want you to remember this point, this specific point. All right. Now, before we start into the second topic, you can go over to Slido again, and Neha, you can activate the second question for everyone.
Sure.
All right. Right. How far you've reached with web development? All right. Have you ever tried web development? How far have you gone with it? If you, I just want to see how many people. All right, one. Well, one's the lowest. Five will be the highest, I guess. Okay. All right. So there's someone, one or two people who are rating 4, so they have gone quite far with web development apparently. Some with 3, so they have checked things out, and most of you, 69% specifically, are still new to stuff, right? New to this thing called web development. All right, that's fine. It will all get changed by the time we are done with the workshop. Don't worry. Right. Sorry. This code, everything is a string, is really important, and this has been handed down by generations in the history of computer science. Literally everything is a string, and that's true. And it was famously quoted by none other than me. Yes, it was quoted by me right now. What I mean by this is exactly what it says. Everything is a string. Everything is a string. All your code is just text. Now, I'm going to assume most of you have written some kind of code, whether by interest or by compulsion. You have come across something called a string. A string is just plain text, right? It's just plain text. Text is equivalent to string. But have you ever wondered while you were writing code, the code itself is just text. So it's technically a string. Your entire code is just string, right? And so if you want to share your code with someone, you can just share that text, that string. And that's basically how the web works. Because if someone wants your website, all you need to do is share your code to them. And I told you, remember this, right? If someone has your code and has a browser, they can, well, run your website. So if you're going to share your code, you can share a string, which is basically your code, right? And that's how the web works. there is something called a client and something called a server. A server is a computer and a client is also a computer. Difference is that the server is owned by you or rented by you. That means that you are the kind of so and so the owner of the server, of the computer of the server, right? And that server holds the website or the code of your website. And a client is a user, and client is also computer. A client requests the server for your website through a string again. Yes, the client sends a string which basically says, "Dude, I want this website. I want to see, look at this website." And there are some technical terms inside the string, but basically what it wants is just saying to the server, "I want to look at this web page." And the server checks that and says he wants the web page, gives your code to a client in the form of a string again. And the client has a string, he has a browser, he plugs his string into the browser understands that the string is compilable into a website, and so it displays that as a website. And that's basically how the web works. Um, Now we'll get to some technical terms, all right? Not a lot, not really that technical, but something called front end and back end. Front end is client-sided, and back end is stuff that goes inside the server itself. Front end is all that a user can see with their eyes. That is the images, the videos, the text, all the rich text, all the hyperlinks the user sees is called front end. And the backend is what makes that possible. The backend handles the request that the client is going to send, and if you write code for that server to work, because it is a computer, and that all that code is goes into backend. And we'll go into backend in the future maybe, but for this session we are going to stick it front end. And for creating a website, you don't really need backend for now. All you need is front end. That is all the buttons, all the text, all the images. That all goes to front end, and that's all you need for now. And that's what we're going to teach in this workshop. The basics of front-end development, because we're going to teach front-end. HTML. HTML or hypertext markup language is just what it sounds like. It's text. It's data. Text means data, right? So all it holds is text. All the headings, all the paragraphs, all the images, all the links, all of that goes into HTML, right? And that's what we're going to teach today, HTML5 specifically. Then HTML itself is just plain text, as I said. So if you run your HTML, all you're going to see is just simply text in your browser. And that's fine if you're going just want to share data with everyone. But if you want to make it more visually appealing, then you need to use something called cascading style sheets or CSS. Right, and CSS is used to add those colors, positioning your text everywhere, and adding basic shapes if you want. But CSS can go really far if you want to. Like you can technically or theoretically render an entire image through CSS, like an image from a camera through CSS. You can render an entire image, but I say theoretically because the amount of mathematics that will go behind this, it will just simply not be possible. So let's just leave CSS to what it is for now, right? Text, colors, and positioning, all the stuff. And the last thing we're going to teach is JavaScript, which is a programming language, right? You've heard of programming languages. JavaScript is a programming language. I should mention that JavaScript is not the only option when it comes to programming languages in web development, but it is not just one of the most popular languages, it is the most popular languages in front-end development. Also, it is used quite a lot in back-end development, so it's quite important that you learn this, and we're going to teach it. But for now, I'm going to take the backseat, and Vinayak's going to come in and teach you all about HTML5. So Vinayak, if you could.
Yeah, thank you, Anirudh. So I would be taking up with the HTML part today. So the workshop would be like a hands-on workshop. So I would like to ask you that if you all have installed the VS Code in your systems or not, as we have mentioned that it is like a prerequisite for today's workshop. So can you just put in the chat box that everyone have the VS Code set up or not? Okay, so I see many of you are saying yes. So I'm assuming that most of you have the VS Code with you. So VS Code is like a integrated development environment. Like it's a code editor, and it helps in many ways, like the syntax highlighting and formatting stuffs. So by the end of this workshop, this is a four-day workshop. You would be able to create a simple website like this. You can see this. This is actually the GDSC Explore website. This was a lot bigger website, but we have removed some part from it, and we will be doing this in the course of this workshop. So you see, this page is made up of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, as Anirudh said. And the for today's session, we would be exploring the HTML part of this website. So before we start to begin coding, I would like to make you observe that this website is divided into four sections mainly. The first section is the nav bar. This section is called the nav bar. The second one is the header. It contains this text, these buttons, and animation here. The third section we have is just a event section, and we have some posters with some content and a link here. And the last one is the footer section. It's made up of like a logo and some contact us boxes. So okay, so we'll be start doing this today. Like the HTML part, we'll be doing it today. So let's start coding. I would be telling it from the scratch so that it becomes easier for you. And if you are not much familiar with it, you also can get started. So we have a feature in VS Code that's called the emmet abbreviation. So like if you put an exclamation mark and you press enter, you get a boilerplate for the HTML. Why this is important? Because this has you can write this by yourself also, but if you get it like in short way, so it's more simpler to have it. So like if we want to create this website, we have to see that what all the things are there, like the title is there, and there is a five icon, there is a logo. So how to get all these things? So you need to have something like some imagination in your mind, or do you have to like make up the things like how you would approach the different section by section, right? So we have a title here is GTS Explore given, and there is a five icon, and there is a nav bar, and so the things go on. So let's start by that. So first of all, like I would like to explain the things like this doc type HTML. This represent that the code written is in HTML5. There are many versions of HTML, but the latest version is HTML5. So this doc type represent that this is a HTML5, and the language used is English here. The head, this contains some necessary information, but they are not visible on the main screen of the website. Like it contains the metadata. This is used to tell some hidden things to the website, and for search engine optimization, we use the meta tags. The title tag here, it is used to give the title of the website. So you see that the title we gave for the website was GDSC Explore. So let's give that GDSC Explore. You can just like code with me, so it would be easier for you to understand also. And Anirudh, can you please tell if the font size is okay, or should I zoom?
Vinayak, I think the font size is okay.
Okay, okay, thank you. So once we are done with this, the title, so I would request that you install an extension that's called the live server. What it does is you can just make changes and save it, and you will be automatically getting the refreshes at the website. So so I have just installed the live server. You can just go to the extension tab and install the live server. Once you have done this, you just need to run, and by using the go live button here. So once you click it, you see the page is active now, and once you make any changes there, so this will be reflected on the main page. So you see that we have got the GDSC Explore name written here, but we want this small icon to be there. So how to get this? So this is called the five icon. So we have to import it. So this is done in the head tag. So like I have some images right here, I have just kept it with me. If you want these two, I am sharing a repo link. I will be sharing a repo link with you, so you will get these all there. And so I would just like import for getting something like a link or five icon or like css or javascript, we use the link tag. So link tag is mainly used to import, or we can say that if we want to get something from a location that is kept somewhere in our pc or server, so we can just link the things to our main html page. So for a five icon, the relation that we use is a shortcut icon. So and the href that I would be giving is like images, and this is logo.sgv. And the type would be for like it is an image type, and x icon. So what are these things? Like it is an icon, so I'm telling the browser that the thing I'm using is an icon in real thing. So you see that the five icon has been shown here now. So now we will be starting with the navbar here. So there are many approaches to make a navbar. Some people use the list to make the navbar, but some use the div and boxes to make it. We will be using the boxes like a div for making the navbar. Why? Because it's easier to code, and there are no list properties applied on this. So it's easier when we are writing the css part for it. So let's do that. So what's a div? A div is a like block type element. For a website is made of different blocks. Like if I want to show you, let me show you. Like inspect, and you see this is a small block. Then this is a block. A website is made of different block. These blocks may be used in like for with different names for from formatting conditions. Like if we want something in a line, then the formatting type is called inline, and if it is like stack over one over another, then it is called the block type element. So for these we will be using the div, and then we will be applying the css property of inline block. So these all get in a single line. So I will not be explaining the css to much extent, as it will be explained later in the session. So let's start with the navbar. I always prefer to like have some comments in my code, so it's easier. So for navbar, let us make a big div, and I'll name it as navbar. Inside this navbar, now you see there are different position things here. Like we have a left section here, this contains a logo and a title, and there is a right section here which has these links here. So this navbar is divided into two parts, right? So I have to make two divs within this navbar also. So I would be doing that with a div, and I will give a class name of navleft. These class names are important. Why it is important? Because when you will be writing the css code, you would be needing a reference to these elements. What is reference? Like if you want to write a some css or properties for like this thing, this part of code, so how will you tell the browser that you want to write for this thing? So you need to give a name to this part, and then when you are writing css, you can just tell it that the division that is named heading, so I want to apply these properties to this. So that's called the referencing. There are many ways to reference, like the class name, this is called the class. The second is the id. So you can give an id to the element as well. The ids are used to be unique, means if you have given an id to an element, you cannot give the same id to another one. Whereas the class is like it's not unique, you can give same class to different tags and all. So in the nav left section, I see there is first an logo, and then the gdsc explorer is written, right? So I will just insert an image tag here. What is an image tag? It is used to insert an image, right? So it's like intuitive. and I'll give the path for it. It's the path. I guess the name was GBSC Explorer logo. Yes, and after this, I see there is a heading kind of means this thing that GDS Explorer is written. So I will give a different div that I will name as heading, and I would put the content as GD Explorer SC Explorer there. So once this part is done, you can see that the left part of our so you see this icon is a lot bigger. So to make it small, I'm I'm putting an width attribute in this. But yeah, we can do this in CSS. But for now, I'm just making an inline style so that it's easier for you. So like 50 pixels. You see the this has got small, and we have a GDSC Explorer written here. Now once the left section has been done, now we'll go on to the right section. The right section is made of a div, and these contains multiple buttons here. You see this button, this button, this button, this button, and these buttons have a link attached to them. Like if I'll click on this, I'll come here. If I'll click on this, I'll come here. So these are links attached to them. So we'll also have like these are the anchor tags. We say that we can redirect it to some another location or the web page using the anchor tags. So I'll be just showing it how to do that. So once the nav left is over, so I'll give a different div, and I'll name it as nav right. And inside this nav right, there are like link box. So let's name it as link box or like links. So div dot links is a better name, I guess. And within this this box, there are different small boxes, and these are the links that have to be that we can click on. So for that, like if I've given the links to this, and so I'll see I have how many buttons. I have 5 buttons, 1 2 3 4 5. So I'll just create 5 links. Okay, link boxes, I mean. So div dot link box, and I can just multiply this by 5, so I get 5 link boxes here. Okay, and inside these I can just put my links. So what's the method to put a link? We use an anchor tag. So like you can give that uh, a href isn't working. So ahref equals to like I can I'm putting as that hashed right now because I don't have any link to put. And I will give it the name as home. So you see I have got uh, a link here, and it's a clickable link, you see. And I you see the cursor is changing, and I can click on this. But yeah, if we'll click on this, nothing will happen because we have not set any link for this. Similarly, I'll just set it for all of the and divs. So I'll just copy paste this to save that time. And this one contains events. This one has the name of teams and the sponsors, and the last one is speakers, I guess. So you see my navbar like frame is ready for the navbar. I have got a a logo heading for the navbar, and I have got 5 links here. So like this section is done. So now I would be moving to the main content, we can say, or the header part of this website. So like putting these all in a single container makes it easier sometimes. Like we can just make the things like justify center and align center, so that this complete content is in the center of the page and there is no overflow x in that. So like what I mean to say is, I'm just explaining is, like, I'll make a div and I'll call it main content, and within these I will make different sections like the header section and the event section and the footer section. Okay, so like now I would start with the header. For the header section, we see that what are things are there. There is a box and it has a left panel, it has a right panel. The left section contains a heading, a small heading, some time thing, and a paragraph here. Also it contains two buttons. The right section has a logo, or you can say an animation. So we have to think like that, we have to frame the HTML in that way. So like I will make a div and I will give its id as header section. I'm using id somewhere and class somewhere, but yeah, it's totally upon you, you can use anything. But yeah, remember that if you are giving id to something, you cannot give the same id to a different tag. Once I have made an header section, I will go with the outer box. I will call it as outer div. And within this outer div, what is outer div? Within this header section, I have this left pane and right pane, right? So this complete should be in an outer div, and then the inner div should be there. It would contains the logo and the content. Okay, so yeah. So inside the outer div, I have like div, and I will name it as inner div content. Like if you guys are lagging, so you can just tell me. Okay, like this should not be there, like you all are not able to cope up with me. Okay, cool, nothing just like that. And within the inner div, yeah, now I got to put some text here. So first I will give some heading. So for heading, let's use the h tag. So what's the h tag? Huh. So like h tags are used to give the headings. H1 is of largest size, whereas h2, h3, h4 are in like smaller than these. H6 is the smallest, so you can use this. It's easier to give h tags because it gives an intuition that the thing we are using is a heading, right? So I will give the h1 tag, and let us not keep any class name for now, and I'll give it as gdsc explore. And you see below the h1 here, I have a smaller thing, smaller text, and it is written to exclude the developers from the northeast. So I'll just copy it so it's easier for me. So let's give an h2 tag for this, and I'll paste the text here. And below this, you see we got some time thing, right? Like there is a logo, and there is this time thing given. So like we can do this as well. For this we got to give it like div dot time, and there we can just import a image dot time, something like that. I think I have not imported it, but for now I'm just giving it time dot png. I'll put it in some time, and after that we can just give a like h2, and where it will be containing this text. Now I want to show you how the website looks. So you see I got a heading, a smaller heading. uh, a, s- a image will be inserted here. I have not put the correct route. I'll just do it in some while, and then I get this time text. Okay, that when the event is going to be held. And once this is done, I would the next thing is the paragraph. So the paragraph is the like the tag used for paragraph is like p tag. That's called p, as simple. And I'll just copy paste the complete content. If you don't have the content, you can just go with lorem ipsum. So what's lorem? Like it's just like a dummy text. You write lorem and you press enter and you get some dummy text like here. So let me show. Like you get this text. Okay, and once this thing is done, you see my this part is done. Now I have to put some buttons here. So there are two buttons. One is registered now and one is see brochure, and both have some links attached to it. Like if I click on it, you see I get to this page, and if I click on the another button like see brochure button, so I got go to this page, right? So we'll just put make it like that. Okay, so here within the after the paragraph we have to do this, right? So uh, now I'll just give a div and let's name it that buttons. And within these buttons I'll give two href tags like that, the anchor tag, and two buttons, a button inside an anchor tag, right? So an anchor tag and inside, so let's give it a hash for now, and inside this anchor tag I would give a button, and that button I will call it as let's say register, and I want the text to be written inside the button as registered now. So I'll write this, and similarly I need another button as well, and it will just say see brochure, and let's give the class name as brochure button. So you see that we have got two buttons here. These are clickable buttons, and for now it does not redirect us to anywhere because we have put the anchor tag as hash. But yeah, if we'll put the real links it will work, and we can just click on this and it gives us a responsive feedback. You see, like it the color changes over the hover and the things like that. Now after the button section is over, so you see that the right section is over. Now we just need to put the the left section is over. Now we need to put the right section, and it would be containing a logo. So after the like uh, after this I need to put an div, and I'll just name it as explore logo, and let's import an image here, and the image is at this, and I'll give it a width of maybe 200 pixels, because you see the image is big here, right? So like so 200 is not okay, but yeah, you can change this later on. So means this in css we'll give all the styling in the css thing. We are just making the frame, or you can say a skeleton to the website, so that it becomes easier, and we can go do the css part in one go. Once so this is the header section done, and once this header section is done, so let's comment it out again. Now after this I need to do the second section. Mm, Second section is of events. Now let's see first what are things are there in this. These events have a heading named event. There are three clickable buttons. It says day 1, day 2, and day 3. And then for for day 1, we have three posters, three events. And this event is like a card. You see, this is a card, and it contains a poster, some heading, and there is some paragraph text and a link there. So let's do this. For this, I'll make a div and name it as event section. And inside this, let's give a outer box dot event. Like many of you must having the doubt that why I'm using this outer box than inner box. So like you will get to know in the upcoming sessions. Like we'll be using the flex box in this. So giving that outer box and inner box makes it easier to align the things and so on. So that's why I'm using these. Otherwise you can directly give it in the event section as well. But so that so because we wanted to use the flex box and for better alignment and all stuff, so we are giving this a outer box name. And inside the outer box, so let's give a heading. So div dot events heading, and I'll call it as events. Let's make it h1 because I see it's a heading, right? So it's a better option. Let's see events has come here. Now below events we see there we have three buttons and then a card, then three cards are there. So below this we have like div dot days button. We can give the name as days button, and inside this days button, uh, div dot days. And let's make three buttons. And I want three buttons, right? So I'll just multiply it by three and I get the three buttons. And within the each button I want like some text, but this text should be in somewhat bigger font we need. So like we can write directly also day 1, so let's write directly only. So it's like day 1 and day 2, and here comes the day 3. After the buttons are made, so like above portion of the event section is complete. Now we'll start by making the cards. Okay, so that's somewhat tricky thing, but let's see. Like after the days button we end it here, and we have the cards layout, right? So like cards layout, and within this after this cards layout, let's give it a div of cards outer. And now we'll make three cards here. So let's give a div of card, and I'll multiply this by 3. I would like to point something like if I click on day 2 and if I click on day 3, I get different cards, but this thing is a part of JavaScript. So when you will learn JavaScript, then you will be able to do this. For today, we'll be just making 3 cards. So in a card, you see we have a card image and there is some text there, right? So let's make div dot card image, and inside this I'll just insert an image. uh, and src as images and kickstart. So this image is inserted here, and after this let's start with the card body. What's the card body? Card body contains of this heading, this paragraph, and this link, this small link. So I'll just make one card and then I'll show the output what we are getting. Okay, so div dot inside this the card body we have first the heading thing. So let's get the kickstart GDSC, and below this we have a paragraph. So inside the paragraph, let me copy the content from here itself. And now after the paragraph, you see I have some button here, like this but open button is there, and this is a logo. This arrow button is a logo. So I also have this imported in my directory. So let's give this like and this complete thing is a link, right? So I'll give an anchor tag here. Then put in hash, and in this anchor tag let's first write like span. So what's span? Span is like a inline element. Like you see we have been using div is like it gets stacked one over another, whereas a span is like it is like in continuation. uh, how to tell, like let me give you an example, then it will be better for you. Like if I give a span of high and then I give a span of bro, okay, and let me show the output. So you see uh, high and bro are in a same line, you see. But what if I give them a div? If these were a div, they would be like a block type element. So a block type element, so you see now the high is above and the bro is below. So these have now been a block type element, but we don't want a block type element. Why? Because we want this to be with the logo, so we'll give a span to it. So like span, and I'll put the text as open. And once the span is made, now I'll just import the logo here. So it's like img images and navigate icon. So I think one of the card is like made. So you see one card is made. Yeah, I know it does not look like a card, but it's a card. Means when you will apply all the CSS, you will be able to see that this is a card. So now let's make three, and in the same way let's make three cards. So I'll just copy paste this to save time. So I made three cards here, and let's put different images. So in the case of this kickstart, I'll just uh, put here hosting, and here also it will be like we are hosting two. Okay, and you can change the content and these things as well. So I'm just like doing it fastly. Okay, so we have got three cards. So let us see how it look like. So we have this nav bar. The upper header section is like till here, And here starts the event section. We have this card 1, then the card 2, and the card 3, and each of the cards have their text. You see, each of the card have their text, and along with it, it has a open button, and it have a logo of navigate. So you see that we have got the card section done. This is the card section done. So now let's move to the last in the footer section. So in the footer section, what we see is we have this email thing, then a contact us heading, and below this we have like two divisions made. The left division have a logo and a website developers text, and the right side have a form, like it's a form and we can just fill it. So let's do this. So where does this thing end? The count layout. Ah, okay. So now just get start with the footer section. So inside this footer section, what I see is I have this thing first. So let's write this. So how I'll give this is I'll give a div and I'll name it as email. And inside this email, so here we have the user span tag. Why? Because we see this is the text thing, but this is a link, and both are in continuation, right? So we need to use the span tag here. One span tag will have this email set thing, and the another span tag will have this link thing. Okay, so I'll just give span, and I'll paste this, and I'll then give an anchor tag, and let's give the hash, and yeah, I'll paste this. Let's see what's up there. So we need a space here, I guess. So let's give a space. Done. Email is set, and then this link is there of the email address. And below this, we have this contact us heading and these two sections. So just make it quickly. So like I'll give a heading. I'll call it h1 dot contact us, and let's call it right contact us also only. Below this, I have a outer div. So like div dot contact outer, and there are two inner divs. The first one contains this logo and the second one contains this form. Okay, so like div dot content left, and this content left contains of like a logo and some text. So like image, and the same GTS Explore logo is there and the text is there. So I'll just give it an h2 tag. It becomes easier because the size becomes same. So website developers, I'll write in that. And you can install this prettier extension. What it does, it helps us to format the documents so it looks in a beautiful way. And after this website developer thing, the content left is over. Now we have the right section. So like content right. So div dot, why I'm giving this dot thing, to get a class name. If I want a id name, then I'll give a div then hash, and then I can give some id name like id name for instance. So I get the id name as this. So these are some features of VS Code only. This will not happen everywhere. And in this content right, uh, there are these field box. Okay, so now let me tell you about the forms. So this is a form actually. What is a form? Means you can like send some input or some message, or you can send some data to the server side or to some website using a route, or you can get it as well. Means there are multiple ways to handle a data like post or get, and you can send some data or get some data in a form. So like this, in this form we would be like sending the data, so it will be like post type. And this form contains some input fields. These input fields are like first name, last name, email, and this text area, and a submit button. Okay, so just there are many like I'm telling you. Okay, so first we give a form dot contact form. Like action, don't want to like give this form to any place for now, but if we have some backend or some action set, so we can just send some data to some website or some backend server, for instance. So and after this we have input tags, right? So like for the for the name, this thing is a single line. Okay, so I'll just give this in a div, a single div, so that it's easier for the css person to means align them in a proper way. So like div dot name box, and inside this I will give a input. And okay, so see, there are many types of input. Like this is a button, or you can get a checkbox, or you can input a color, a date, time, email. You can like, if you want some file upload, then you can input some file, and like image, month, number, password. If you have some password thing, so like if I have some password type input field, so if I'll write something in that, so it will not be visible. You see, we get this dot dot thing. Whereas if it is set to text, so we get the normal things. Like if I said put the type as text, so there is no change. Like now I'll just write and it will be visible. And so there is an attribute for the input field. Like you see, there is written first name. Like when nothing is written, you see the first name is written there. So that is called the placeholder. The attribute is called placeholder. So I'll give a placeholder, and I'll name it as first name. And the id I would give as f name, which means first name for me. Yes, you can give a different id as well. And let's copy this down, and a different text box, and it's like it will contain the last name. So let's see how it is looking. So yeah, it's looking good, like first name and last name. Now once the name box is over, now we want the email thing. So we give the div dot email, and just input, and yeah, it will be text type only. And it will contain a placeholder where it will be written like email. And let's give it the id of email. And after this we have a text area, right? What's a text area? Like if you want to have some bigger text, or you want to write some paragraph or something, so you don't use the input like text thing, because it gives us a small box. But if you want a big thing, so we use a text area. So you just give it a text area, and you can put the name, but it's not compulsory for now. And write the query. And we have got a text area here, and a text area has some attributes like rows and all. So what does it do? It controls the height and width of this text area. Like if I increase the row to 20, you see this will get bigger. You see it has got bigger. And similarly, if I increase the column, so the width will increase. See, the width has increased to some amount. So I will keep it to default. Not change it. If needed, we'll change it using the CSS or something like that. After this, we have a submit button. So here submit button. So this is a button, but inside a form we can get a input field that's named as submit, that's also of submit type, and it automatically detects that if that button is clicked, then the form will get submitted. So like just we can give a input and we can put the type as submit. So it will automatically create a button there. So you see a button is created, and once you click, the form gets submitted. So that was needed to us. And with this, I guess we have made the skeleton for this website. And if you have any doubt with any of these things, you can just ask me. And I'm just sharing the link for the resources where you can get. Okay, so this is a public repo. I guess you know how to use GitHub. If no, then you can just go to this website and you can just download the zip and you can just extract it in a normal way. You extract a zip file and you will find both the image and the HTML code here. The HTML code I have already written, and that's already there with everything set in that, so that it's easier for you to continue in the next session if you want to. And so I'm just sharing this in the chat box. Okay, so like now if you have some doubts, you can just put in the chat box. I see Saurav has explained many things. And like means the next day means the tomorrow, we'll be adding the css to this, because it's, you see, it's looking very ugly, and you must be thinking what we have made in this. But you see every website is made in steps. First we have to frame the HTML part, and then we have to style it using the css. Like css is called the muscle part of the website, whereas the HTML is just its skeleton. Means a body won't look good with just a skeleton, right? You must have the skin and all those stuff on a website also. So let me tell you some things like how to link and all. Like if you create a css here, like let's make a style.css file, and I want to give some properties, but the properties won't be inherited directly, right? I have to link it. Means I have to tell this website that I want to use the css property from this file. So I'll just use the link
Yeah.
tag. Yes.
We can cover all of this tomorrow. We can leave this for now. Let's just focus on the HTML part, right?
Yeah, okay. So I guess it's done for today. The HTML part that I have thought, I have made this, and I have told them if they have any doubt, then they can just ask in the chat box. It would be like very nice.
Well, all right. Since we've come to the end of the session, you can put your questions in the chat box. Right now, I'll try to explain or just a small recap of what we learned. Okay, just the tags and stuff. Vinay,
Yeah,
you
I'll
can
do
stop
that.
sharing your screen, I think.
I'll do that. Okay. You are sharing it, or I'll do. Okay,
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
it. Okay.
I'm doing it.
Okay. Okay.
I hope you guys can see things. Alright, let me just cut that off. That's my base code, and you can see I've created an index of the HTML file. I don't think we mentioned why we call it index. Index is just like a factory standard, or like it's a standard. That's all you need to know. Index, the first web page of your website is called index. That's why we name this index of HTML. And HTML is all about just tags, and you can see a tag looks something like this. This is called an opening tag, and this is called a closing tag. And all the text you write in your HTML, because HTML is basically just text, goes inside the text, right? And for your browser to understand that it is an HTML, we enclose everything inside an HTML tag, right? And inside an HTML tag, there are two things basically. The first is head, which is just the description about your HTML document, that is your web page or website. And the second is the body, which includes all the text, all the images that you actually want to include inside your website. So all of these are tags, the opening tag and ending tag. Inside the body, there are the text you can use. You can use simple text, just like random text like this, and your browser is actually going to interpret kind of like, I can show this to you. Let me check. All right. Right, this is where I have my index.html file. I'll just open this in my browser. I'll just copy the address from here, paste in my browser, and you can see I just open the folder, and this is my index.html file. Right, let me. I think I forgot to save that. I already saved that, and you can see a browser by itself will show you the text because it is supposed to show you the text, but in HTML you don't usually leave your text floating like this. You always put tags around them, something like an h1 tag, which is a header tag we just learned, and it makes your text bigger because it is a header. Similarly, there are things like a paragraph, where you can type in paragraphs. You can see this is a paragraph tag. We already mentioned about images, and in images, sorry, um, all right, in images, there's a special thing called an attribute. An image tag uses an attribute called src, where you link your images. If, for say, you like this image right here, which is, you know what? Let me just search up an image. I'll just search up an image in Google, and you copy the address of that image. All you have to do is just paste it into the src attribute of your image, and that is going to bring up your image. Maybe this image won't work, maybe something else. Uh, and do that. You can see we just added an image with the src attribute of the image tag. Right. Similar to that, you have an anchor tag, right? We mentioned an anchor tag, which is simply just a, and it has an attribute href, which is similar to an image src attribute, but href just links you to a website. Like, example, like a GDXC Explore website, you can just paste it there and hit refresh. Oh, I forgot to add a text. Link, let's say just link to Explore website, right? Refresh and you'll get a link to the GDXC Explore website. It might take a bit of time to load, but yeah, like that. Yeah, it works. And we also looked at something called a div element, right? We looked at a div element, which basically includes, which is just a box for your other HTML tags, like a header. You can place a header inside it. You can place a paragraph tag inside it until it just encom um, it's like a wrapper for all the elements you just placed in, which is the header tag and the paragraph tag. If you go to elements and if you hover over this div, you can see it covers up both the h1 tag and the paragraph tag. Something called span is similar to div, but it only occupies the horizontal area which your interior elements occupy, right? But a div element will always take up the entire horizontal space of your workspace, and that's the difference between div and span. Um, is there anything left out you mentioned, Vinayak? Vinayak, are there? Right, maybe he's having some issues, but this basically what we went through. And of course, there was a button tag, which I think was pretty simple, and there was a form tag, right? There was a form tag. For form, you can basically just go to a website called W3 Schools, and it will show you all the different things inside form element. Uh, Actually, you can just look at every single HTML tag you want to, and I would really recommend that you go through all the things that you learned today, specifically H1, sorry, H tag, the anchor tag, the image tag, and especially the form tag, right? Um, you can see there is a form right here. We can just copy it, and that's fine. I'll just copy the code from there. And this was basically your form, right? You can go and try these things at home, and it will probably be a lot easier when you try things for yourself. So go home and try this for yourself, right? Open up W3 Schools, check all the tags, and go through them. It will be a lot easier for tomorrow. And I think, were there any questions? Yeah, you can start piling up your questions in the chat box if you have any still. It can be really basic questions, doesn't matter. Like uh, how to create an HTML document, it's fine. You can ask that. Anyone. Yes, yes, of course, the GDC Explorer. So, I think I'll update you all of you guys in like in a social media post or like maybe in the event description. I'll send you all the necessary images, GIF files, all the animations you need inside. I'll send you all the links in a drive folder maybe. You can have the link here for GDC Explorer. Don't worry about all those things. I will send you all the necessary images and stuff. So don't worry about that. Any more queries?
So like means I would like to add something like you should start exploring from now as well now only, and like you can make some basic website or portfolio like something, and uh, after the end of the session we might ask you to show like, so that if we see, so we get some confidence, yes, that yes you have learned something, and based on that we may give some certificates or something like that. Right, and we have discussed it something.
Yes, we'll explain all of that later on. For now, all you need
Okay.
to do is try out things for yourself. There will be a small break after CSS, and you can try all these things for yourself. That's fine. With that, we come to the end of our workshop for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. again. For JavaScript, there's a small update on the days for JavaScript, and we'll share it with you in the social media post, or maybe we'll get it in. We'll try to. We'll reach you. We'll reach you. Right? We'll reach you for about the updates. Anything there is. And don't worry about, again, as I mentioned before, do not worry about all the um, images and stuff. We'll send all of that to you, no problem. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you Olindam for the stream, Neha for managing, and Yunak for the teaching half of the HTML. Thank you everyone, and thank you everyone for being here.